So controversy at the end, late drama, a late try to take the lead. Scotland-France had a bit of everything. It was the Six Nations summed up in certainly the final 20 minutes of a game quite nicely in a lot of ways. And obviously all the talk is going to be about that decision at the end. So I'm going to get into all of that, plus the game more generally in this video. Welcome back to the channel and comment down below. I can imagine there are going to be loads of Scotland fans in the comments saying that their team were robbed, and I can understand why you would feel that way, but I'll talk you through it, give you my views on it. So comment down below, make sure you like the video, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel as well. It's one of those games where it's so obvious where we have to start with this. And Scotland thought they'd scored, France thought, or at least were claiming that they had held it up. It goes to the TMO and it is looked at for an absolute age. And I've watched it back this morning. I couldn't do a video yesterday after the game actually because I was at Twickenham, too much going on. So I thought I'd leave it. And I've watched it again, listened to the conversations between the referee and the TMO, and I can fully understand why Gregor Townsend, Finn Russell, that Scotland camp and the Scotland fan base are going to feel pretty robbed here. It's one of those occasions, isn't it, where it comes down to the referee's original decisions, that he says he has it held up, so he needs conclusive evidence that there was a grounding. And I think even with the replays, you have a pretty clear idea that it was probably grounded. Is there absolutely the angle where it's definitely on the line? Well, I know a lot of Scotland fans are going to say yes, because there's that little screenshot that is being circulated on social media, almost from behind the play, where you can see it on the ground. The officials might argue they can't absolutely tell you if that is on the line. So it's one of those that I can understand it both ways, but equally the frustration for Scotland is real. And I think if that was my team, I think any fan base, if they were watching that, will feel, even the French will probably feel, that is realistically a try. It comes back to the referee's question, I suppose, at the start. And I think the reason it's going to be even more controversial is because some of those discussions. The TMO at one point says, I've definitely got a grounding there. They go back, they keep checking. He says, I can't definitely say it's on the line. I think the officials were fully aware of the pressure of that moment, the size of that decision. I sympathise with them because it's not easy at all. That doesn't do Scotland much good, though, when they should have probably had a try. The one other thing I'll say in terms of the decision as well is, do you think France's reaction helped? When Scotland drove over the line, there were some Scotland celebrations. I think there was a bigger reaction from that French team in that they were saying they had held it up. Now, that could have been because the referee signalled that it was held up, but I just wondered whether it helped in that decision, because the French reaction to me looked stronger. And in the way that psychology can play a part in these sorts of decisions, I just wondered, could be completely wrong, whether that maybe had an impact on what the referee and the officials saw. Maybe not, but I thought it worth mentioning because, again, it's something that, having seen the incident again, I've seen a recording from pitch side. It's very interesting. The French reaction is much stronger than the Scottish. But for all of that, and for all of the conversation around that decision, and as I say, I fully understand that Scotland are going to be absolutely gutted. They're going to feel that they have been robbed, and hopefully, as I've explained there, you can understand why they would think that way. I don't think that's the be-all and end-all of this. I think when there's a decision like this, you can get caught up in that decision and lose sight of other areas of the game, because ultimately this is a missed opportunity for Scotland. And I will come on to France and how they came back into it. But the big story from this game for me is more Scotland not taking their opportunities. And once again, it's this Scotland side who've played well, who've put their opposition under pressure, who've put themselves in a great position to win a game, and they're not able to do it. And I think if you look at the stats, Scotland had more entries into the 22, they spent more time in the red zone, but their red zone efficiency was really poor, in particular compared with the French. And you look at that period towards the end of the half, where they were putting France under so much pressure. Weenie Antonio gets a yellow card, and then France win a scrum penalty and they can kick the ball out and get to halftime without conceding another score. It's moments like that that I think are more important for Scotland to focus on and to get right. Yes, the officiating and the decision going against you is really frustrating. That happens. But control what you can control. They put themselves in positions to get more points in that game, to potentially win the game, and they weren't able to see it out. That, for me, if I was a Scotland fan, would be my bigger frustration. It is another game. How often do we say it with Scotland, where they've missed an opportunity? They are good enough to beat these teams, but they seem to struggle to get over the line. That was one of my big takeaways from having watched that game. That, for me, is probably the biggest takeaway from a Scotland perspective. Because this defeat changes the whole complexion of Scotland's championship now, I think. They win that, all of a sudden, you're saying going into a Calcutta Cup game at home against England, Scotland would be the favourites. They can go 3 from 3. And you'll be looking at them possibly getting to the end of the championship and being in contention to win it. They now ultimately have to do a job on Ireland, and I'm just not sure from what we've seen so far on the evidence in front of us that they're going to be able to do that. Is it going to be another year where there is disappointment for Scotland on not really being in a position to win the Six Nations? I'm not saying that they're going to win it anyway, even had they won yesterday, but you want to get to that final weekend with that still being a possibility. Is that going to be the case? Well, maybe it is, but I think it's a massive ask for them to get the job done against Ireland. Let's get on to France, though, because you've got to give them credit, and they weren't perfect by any stretch, but to hang in that game, as I said at the start of the video, there were so many elements of it that was a classic Six Nations game because it was a bit of an arm wrestle. It wasn't pretty. Both teams made mistakes, but France ultimately had that decisive moment. Louis Bielbiarré, the chip and chase to score the try. Shades of Louis Rees-Zammit, actually, when he did that for Wales. I think it was in COVID because I don't think anyone was there. Could be wrong. Where he scored a really great chip and chase for Wales to win it fairly late on. There were shades of that there from the French youngster. But where are France after this game? That was the big question, wasn't it, coming into it? On the back of Ireland, where they got beaten so comfortably, was that more about Ireland being good and France being a bit off it? Are they still the juggernaut of a team that we expect them to be? I think the jury's still out because, as I say, massive credit for coming back into it. Murrayfield is not an easy place to go. They were on the back foot for big chunks of that game, but they found a way to win it. So you give them credit for that, but I still don't think we quite know where this French team are, because as we've spoken about already, Scotland will feel they should have put them away already. Scotland will feel they shouldn't have allowed the chance for France to get back into the game. So I think we can't really tell where France are still. You suspect they're probably the second best team in the competition, but on the evidence of the opening 2 games, could they lose to any of the rest of the teams they've got to play? Wales and Italy, you'll say they'll beat, and then they've got England at home. I think maybe being at home, France will win the rest of the games, and maybe it will be just the one defeat they have at the end of this Six Nations. But you don't feel like they're as impressive as they have been in previous seasons. You don't feel really that they're at their best. And I suppose from their point of view, they're going to look at this and say, or hope, this is the game to just get them up and running. Such disappointment on opening night in week 1, a tough away day in week 2. Yes, it wasn't great, but it's a win. They move forward, and now we can see them go through the gears. That's what they will be hoping for from a French perspective. Whether that happens or not, we'll wait and see. As I say, I still think from France, they just don't look quite where they have been over previous years, but the Six Nations is a championship that teams can build into. You can get better from week 1 to the final weekend. Maybe that's going to be the case. And also, I think the fact that, on paper at least, you would say they've got their 2 toughest matches out of the way. Maybe now they win their next 3, they get to the end of it, and we say, yeah, France is still pretty good and they're in a good place. So that's my general view on it. What did you make of it? Let me know in the comments. As I say, massive drama at the end. Fully sympathise with the Scotland point of view of feeling that was a try, but also the missed opportunities elsewhere you cannot lose sight of. That's my general thoughts on it. Let me know. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel as well. I always appreciate you watching, so I'll see you in the next one.